Welcome. So today we are going to review basic back routines. So when it comes to Yamuna body rolling, the one routine that is kind of the essential, the routine if you didn't have time to do anything else, would be a back routine. There's quite a variety of variations and they all feel slightly different. They all have a slightly different focus. Some are a little more strength oriented. Some work a little bit more with connecting the front and the back of the body together and really focusing on breathing. Some have a little bit more of a core focus, and then some are purely for loosening up the back. In general, all Yamuna routines are focused on length, and this routine is no different. So before every routine, I'm always going to show you the path of the ball and help you decide which ball you would like to choose for the routines that we are going to do. Throughout this entire routine, a few things that you're going to focus on. One of them, as I mentioned before, is length. So we will be starting with the ball underneath our sacrum and sits bones and slowly be moving our body so that the ball ends all the way up behind the back of our neck. As we focus through this routine, we're constantly going to be thinking of creating space between each of our vertebrae. So what are our vertebrae? We can feel them as these little bony notches that go up the back of our spine. We have lumbar vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, and then cervical vertebrae up here in our neck. The bony landmarks that you need to be familiar with today in order to follow the routines are your sits bones. So your sits bones are these bony parts that you sit on. These are your ischial tuberosities. They're part of your pelvis. So we will start at the sits bones. Another bony landmark to be familiar with is your sacrum. The sacrum is this triangular shaped plate that's all the way down in the pelvis before you get to the lumbar spine. We can feel the sacrum and kind of where it ends as we put our hands on our hips. Any point that we're above our hips, we are no longer on our sacrum and are into the low back. Again, lumbar, thoracic. Thoracic spine is going to be where our rib cage is attached and cervical vertebrae. A landmark that we're going to end with is something called the occiput, which is these bony prominence that's here at the back of the skull. So you can feel that quite easily. That's where we'll end all of our routines today. So we'll either be using a gold ball or a silver ball. Couple differences with these two routines. So gold ball is going to be a little bit more supportive, a little bit more expansive, right? It's larger. It's easier for you to keep your body on the gold ball. If you have severe back pain, if you have osteoporosis, if this is your first time rolling, then I probably would recommend starting with a gold ball. Gold ball is great for rolling up the center line, and even when we're doing the abdominal strengthening routines, a gold ball is going to be perfectly fine. You will see as we roll up each side of the spine, I will also use the silver ball. This can kind of get into those muscles that are next to the spine and kind of work in there a little deeper. So this may feel good to you if that's what you're looking for. So we're going to start with basic back. This routine, we are going to start at the sits bone as we move forward. And we're going to do this basically starting up the center, because I want to work first on being able to connect the front of the rib cage to the back of the rib cage. So we're going to go up the center on this gold supportive ball. As we go up, the ball is simply going to move up the back. Again, our finishing spot is going to be here with the chin tucked and the ball all the way on the back of the skull, keeping in mind that our neck muscles, right, attach all the way to the back of the skull. As we go through these routines, one of the things that I want you to focus on is not doing a back bend over the ball. The entire time we want to keep some integrity into the front. So as you see me working through the spine, one thing that you don't want to do is be flopping back here over the ball, right? We don't want to go into a back bend. The point of this routine is not to stretch through the front of the body. The point of this routine is to lengthen all the way through the body. So we want to keep this front of the body pretty much like connected mentally, connected physically, together, and then connected to the ball. So to start this routine, again, we're going to roll right up the center of the spine. We are going to start with the ball. We're not going to start on the sits bones for this routine. We're going to start at the sacrum. You always want to leave a lot of room in front of you when we're doing back routines, because to get the ball to move up the spine, we're going to be rolling forward. So we're going to start here. The ball is going to be pressing into the sacrum, and we are just going to sit here and breathe. At the start of almost all of these routines, it's a little bit boring, if you will. And until you start to do these over time and realize how much your body starts to let go and sink into the ball as you just sit here and rest, it feels a little odd. But just to start with, all we're going to do is just sit here and sink back into the sacrum, right? We're not having to like crunch or push. We're just being here, right? This is taking a little bit of abdominal strength, right? Just to kind of hold everything in. If for some reason just sitting here already feels strenuous on your neck or your core, then just take your hands and go ahead and grab onto your knees. Another place that's fine for your hands to be is down here. You can just use them to support you right now. And you notice already this interplay between more weight in my hands versus more weight in the ball. So we're just gonna stay here and sink. For me, I'm feeling like maybe I want a little bit more challenge. Maybe you can even just do one hand on the knee and one hand off. From here, to move the ball up the spine, we are simply going to shift our hips forward. Whenever we shift or move in a body rolling routine, we always want to keep contact or weight down into the ball, right? We don't want to pick up and move forward and plop back down. We want to keep weight into the ball, pick up the hips just a little bit. Our weight is here and we're shifting forward. Okay, so now the ball is top of the sacrum, bottom of the lumbar spine. Again, appropriate things that you can do. We're either here, arms out, here, arms down. If you're already feeling like the head needs some support, please support it, right? Through this routine, we don't need our neck shoved out in extension. We don't need it crunched down. We just need it neutral, and we're supporting it with the hand. From here already, I want you to really think about connecting the front of the body to the back of the body. From there, the back of the body is connecting down into the ball, and breathe. Nice deep breaths all the way down into the belly. So even though the belly is active right now, we can still breathe down into it. We can still let the back expand out into the ball behind us. And on your next exhale, pick up your hips, shift your hips forward and breathe. So ball is moving into the thoracic spine, right? It's starting to make contact with the rib cage behind. Again, from here, take a nice inhale in. On your exhale, really think about connecting the front of the body to the back of the body. The back of the body connects to the ball. Really sinking your weight. The entire time that we are going through this routine, we're also thinking about lengthening. It's almost as if I could take these two hands, grab my head and just reach, right? Again, I'm not leaning backwards. I'm just trying to get length. So as our hips continue to glide down and our body stays on the ball, we want to think about the ball grabbing the spine and lifting it away from the sacrum and the pelvis, right? So pelvis is grounding down, ball is taking body and lifting it up. From here, pick the hips up, shift the hips forward, right? We're right to the point where we're in between the shoulder blades. Here, you definitely want to be supporting the head. So no matter what is going on through here and what support you need, you may still find that you want to hold on to a knee, and that's fine. If you don't need the knee, again, there is awareness, there is activity in the core. This is not a crunch, right? We're not crunched forward. We also don't want to let our ribs pop, right? I see there's a really great woman on Instagram, she calls this rib boob. We don't want a rib boob, right? We want our ribs down, right? Connected to the front of our pelvis in a plane. We don't want them popping out. We want them connected to our pelvis. We want length and breathe. On our next exhale, again, shifting the hips forward. Hips shift forward, ball is now between the shoulder blades. Again, I have my head supported with both hands. You can support it with just one, it does not matter. And we're breathing. Again, head is neutral, right? Not leaning back, not collapsing back over the ball, keeping awareness in the front. Front of the body's connected to the back of the body, back of the body's connected to the ball. And again, this visualization is length. From here, keeping your weight down into the ball as you move. Hips pick up, hips shift forward. Ball continues to traction the spine up, bringing you up, finding length and breathing. Now here the ball is starting to support the back of my neck and head. You can release your hands out from behind the ball at this point. Go ahead and let the chin softly tuck, right? We don't have to extend it, but we also don't have to jam it down. Let it start to softly tuck. From here, I want you to release your shoulders down to the ground. Now, everyone is a little bit different, right? I have a really long torso. Some people have a really short torso. You may already be to behind your skull when I'm still back there on my shoulder blades. The important point to remember is as soon as the head is supported by the ball, feel it on the back of your head, you can go ahead and release the shoulders. What do I want you to do with your shoulders once they've released? You want to ground them away from your ears and down to the ground. We want to create some length here in the back of the neck and just sink. Take some nice deep breaths here, right? Sacrum is just heavy on the ground. From here, shift your hips forward one more time. The ball's going to come back to the back of the skull. Now, this point, the chin is going to tuck. If you need to, depending on the surface that you're on, you want to hold onto the ball with one of your hands so that the ball doesn't shoot out from behind you. You don't need to press back hard. Just let everything release. Let the back of the neck lengthen and breathe. I'm on a carpet, so my ball is not going to fly away from me, so I don't need to hold on to it. But if you're on hardwood floor, tile, or anything like that, you're going to need to hold on to the ball. And then from here, simply release the ball out from behind the back of the head. Just let your palms face up to the ceiling. Just let your back sink into the floor. Hopefully you already feel a little bit more even, a little connected, a little bit of length, and perhaps less tension in the low back. So that was a real simple routine that's going right up the middle of the spine with a gold ball, and also with some focus of connecting the front to the back of the body. You can go through this routine and slow it down even more, and when you slow it down, you can go through the routine, and particularly as soon as you are out of that sacrum and into that low back, we can do more of a core focus, right? So you can slow down even more, take more deep breaths, and get to the point where you can progress and bring your hands off your knees and your arms. So something along those lines would be when we get to a point, say here, right? We can stay here for a while and just focus on breathing, right? One of the important points when we're here and we're working the core would be to bring the shoulders down and away from the ears. So next routine that I'm going to do for the spine, we're going to go up each side of the spine. So this is going to feel very similar. I am going to use a silver ball for this routine. Again, if this is the first time you're using these routines, if you have a really sensitive back or have any issues with bone, then again, I would say to stay with the gold ball. The routine that we just did, if you've done the gold ball routine a few times and you do feel like you're very strong in your core, you can do that routine with a silver. But what we're going to do this time is we are going to go up each side of the vertebrae in the middle. So we're going to start on the right side and go all the way up. We're going to start on the left side and go all the way up. So the last routine, we started down at the sacrum. This routine, we're going to start all the way down on the sits bone. So one thing's important to keep in mind when it comes to sitting on the body rolling balls is that we always want to be off to one side of the tailbone or the other, right? We don't ever want to sit straight down on the coccyx. So we are going to start on the right sits bone. So we're going to bring the ball underneath the sits bone. Again, we want to move back so that we have room to slide forward. And again, since we haven't sat on the sits bone yet for any of our routines, we're just going to stay here for a moment. Yamuna really has this philosophy of starting on bone and staying on bone and sinking into it and allowing you to feel that. Now that is completely different than almost anything I have ever seen in the fitness world, in the massage world. It is very unique to Yamuna body rolling, this whole thought of bone stimulation. Her feeling is that being on bone stimulates bone in the same way that, say, resistance would be from weight or walking or high impact exercise. And so yes, we can definitely theorize, and it makes sense to me scientifically, that if we are putting our body weight directly on something and directly stimulating bone with something firm, that it should stimulate bone. And when I mean stimulate bone, I mean actually improve bone quality. And obviously for women as we're aging, this is something that is of concern. But what I will say is that even though we don't have the scientific data to say that sitting on bone or applying pressure on bone with body rolling is improving bone quality, what you will notice are the sensations that you feel. Again, because there's so little focus on putting pressure or kind of trying to massage or improve bone quality, the sensations are quite different. However, we do know that muscle attaches to tendon, tendon attaches to bone. So if we're trying to impact fascia, if we're trying to impact muscle and movement, starting at bone makes sense. And you will start to notice as you sit on bony landmarks, particularly ones that have multiple muscle attachments that come in the same place, you will start to feel the sensations change. So for a lot of people, when they first start sitting on the sits bone, after we're here for 2 minutes like we are at this point, there may start to get a little bit of a burny feeling, or maybe some burning that was there initially starts to go away. Either way is fine, but when we start on a bony landmark, we are often going to stay there at least 30, 60 seconds, sometimes even 2 minutes. So now that we've started on this right ischial tuberosity, again, this is part of the pelvis, we are going to stay just slightly to the right the entire time. So as I roll up, I'm going to stay here on the right. I'm going to stay here on the right. I'm still on the right. I'm at the right SI joint. I'm going at the right side of the lumbar spine and all the way up. So we're starting on the right side and we are going to stay there. So starting on the right, back so you can see this ball a little better. Got plenty of room in front of me, right? From here, we're just going to shift. So where did I shift to? I shifted forward. That's it, okay? Started back here on the sits bone, shifted my hips forward. What that did is actually brought the ball up my sacrum. What you are feeling right now as you move forward are your glutes. So for a lot of people, most people need some work on their glutes. So this can be a pretty sore area. We are just gonna sit here. So I'm twisted to the side so that I can make contact with you. For you, you're gonna be facing forward. I'm slightly to the right side. For a lot of people, this is gonna be an uncomfortable spot, right? So we're just off to the right side of our sacrum. For a lot of people, they're going to start to feel their gluteus maximus, maybe even piriformis or some of their external rotators in this area. Just stay here and breathe. Again, the entire time I am sinking down, and as we roll up the spine, we are gonna kind of go down and on a diagonal. From here, as we shift, keep your weight down, shift your hips forward. Hips shift forward, weight is still sinking. You can see my hands are behind me at this point. And I am just breathing. Again, as I shift forward in this way, I can almost imagine as my pelvis heads down towards the floor, the ball is grabbing my booty and lifting it up the back of the sacrum. So anytime we're rolling forward and the ball is gripping the back, we're imagining that it's giving us some lift through these muscles, right? We've got gravity all day long, right? pulling our glutes down to the earth. We want to send them back the other way. And from here, shifting forward, right? Ball moves up. Right now, I'm at the sacroiliac joint, right? So it's pretty much right where our sacrum and our pelvis meets. So I'm not onto the low back yet. I'm still at this angle. My rear end, if you cannot see it, is just barely hovering off the ground. It is fine if yours is already down to the floor. That is perfectly fine, okay? From here, we're still to the right side. We're sinking. If your sits bones aren't on the ground, go ahead and get them to that point, right? Once our rear end is on the ground, we're gonna take our hands, either bring them to the hips in front, bring them into the knees in front of us, or you can leave them here. Or again, if we're wanting to be more abdominal focused, we can just reach out from here. And breathe and sink. We're going to stay on the right side the whole way up. Pick up the hips, shift them forward. Ball moves up the spine. Ball is in the low back, right side. From here, hands are here, hands are down to the side, wherever's most comfortable for you. And breathe, letting the body sink back into the ball. We don't have to squish back into it, okay? The core wants to be turned on. We do not need to be crunching hard though and gripping with all of our might. The entire length of the routine, continue to keep some awareness of where your shoulders are. Notice if they're hiking up into your ears. From here, pick up the hips, shift the hips forward. Ball starts to move into the thoracic spine. From here, I want you to really think about lengthening through the spine. So hips are moving forward, we're creating length, right? So here we are. You may start to find that you want to bring a hand behind the head. I often do. I have a history of neck injury. I'm very protective of my neck with these routines. Some people can stay here, not notice that they're creating any tension, and then have a lot of pain later. So for me, I'm going to support my neck. Breathing here, core is connected. Pick up the hips, shift the hips forward. Ball is still to the right side of the spine. Right, at this point, we're in mid-thoracic area, probably about bra level line, or for men, really, right, you cut right through from your nipples to the back, right around that area. Continuing to think length, sacrum's grounding down towards the ground. Every time we shift forward, keep weight on the ball. The ball is tractioning those erectors, those strong muscles that run up the side of the spine. And breathe. Right, front of the body's connected to the back of the body still. Back of the body is connected to the ball. Pick up your hips, shift them forward. Ball is between the shoulder blades, and breathe. Sometimes a way to approach doing one side is that you can support your body with the side that we're not rolling up, right? So we're rolling up the right side, so I can support the body with the left arm and really work on trying to get this right side of the body to relax. Trying to keep the shoulder down, trying to keep this arm long out to the side of the body, right? This can deepen this even more. From here, pick up the hips, shift forward. Ball's coming to the top of the shoulder. Once you're here, even more important, right? Arm can reach out long, shoulder can melt behind you. Neck is nice and neutral, right? We're not tucked in, we're not way back here in extension. Entire front of the body is still connected. And breathe. You may feel some tightness with this arm that's extended out long, right? So you might feel tightness here in the chest or even in the bicep as you release. And then from here, rolling forward. At this point now, the back of my head is on the ball. I can release my hands. Ball is still to the right side, right? So we're feeling it make contact with that right occipital ridge, the back side of the skull. And just breathe. Again, when we hit these bony prominences, This is one that just feels so good. You could just stay here forever. When I start to feel tension headaches in the back of my head, I will often just stick a ball right here, top of my shoulders, right here, making contact with the back of the skull, and just breathe. And you almost can think of, as your shoulders sink down into the ground, the ball is just lifting the head up, right? Creating length in the back of the neck. And then from here, taking the ball, we're gonna bring it out just a little bit. Chin is going to tuck, right? Chin is tucking. Hand is keeping the ball from shooting out from behind us. Arm is relaxing down out by our side. And just breathing, really thinking about where this right shoulder is. Has it creeped up to your ear? Bring it back down. Think about bringing your shoulder blades into your back pocket, right? Down nice and low, and arm relaxes. From here, go ahead and take out the ball. Now, go ahead and just take a few deep breaths here. Since we went up one side, take a moment to notice the difference from one side to the other. Right? Do you feel some tension left over in the left side that we need to get to? The hardest part about doing one side of the spine is making yourself get up and start over on the other side, right? So it feels so good. You get through this one side and you just want to just kind of sink and release. But we're going to move on to the other side. So starting just like we did on the right, we are going to come to this left sits bone, right? So we're starting on our left sits bone. And again, maybe this time I'll go this direction, just so you can see me. So we're gonna start on that left sits bone. We're just sitting on it. Again, this is a really good point to realize. This is a starting point for a lot of muscles, right? This means this is also the starting point for a lot of routines. Starting on the sits bone, even though we're doing the spine right now, sits bone is starting point for the glute routines. It's also a starting point for the hamstrings and also for some of the pelvic floor routines. So getting familiar with this area is very important. And again, this bone takes does take a lot of contact, right? There's some bony prominences on our body that don't get a lot of contact. This is one that actually does. And for some people, this area can get quite sensitive since we sit on it all day. But we've got multiple muscles coming in from at different angles and different areas. And so we are going to stay here and sink for a few moments before we start up the spine. We're going to stay on the left side the entire time. Being in this position right here, again, this may not be comfortable for everyone. This does take a little bit of core stability just to stay upright like this. If you're not comfortable upright like this, it's not even possible because you don't have the length in the hamstrings, right? You can position yourself against a wall to begin with. You also, and I don't have any with me right now, taking books or yoga blocks and using them as props to help you sit upright can be helpful at this point. You can lean forward so that you can make contact with the ground, or you can start off to the side, just slightly. Either one way or another is fine. From here, we're going to shift the hips forward. So boom, as soon as we come off the ball, we start to come back in the glutes, okay? We're coming back into the glutes because we're rolling at the sacrum. The gluteal muscles attach into the sacrum and into the fascia on the back of the sacrum. From here, we're just breathing. We're thinking about the ball dragging the glutes up the pelvis, right? Pelvis is angling down towards the ball, and breathe. Just sink, start to tune into that sacrum. Does this side feel different than the other side? Most people's hips, pelvis, and gluteal muscles are quite imbalanced, so it wouldn't be surprising if one of these sides feels a lot different than the others. And breathe here. From here, we're going to shift forward. Ball's moving up the sacrum. Just breathe. So when we're in positions like this where we're needing to support our upper body, This is sometimes where you're doing some work and you don't even realize that you are doing some work. So if you are really deconditioned and have not been exercising much, right now just the act of holding your body up with your upper body may be a lot of work. One thing I want to draw your attention to is that as you're here is to keep awareness of your posture, right? Not to collapse here, not to let your shoulders come up in your ears, right? We want to ground the shoulders down and lift the chest. We don't want to pop out here, right? We want to keep the ribs attached to the pelvis and down, but just pushing through the hands, keeping ears away from the shoulders. And from here, shift forward. So now I'm at my SI joint. I'm at the point where the sacrum meets the low back, and I'm just sinking here. I'm really just letting my weight fall back into the ball, right? You can modify this. If at any point this is too much pressure on the point where the ball is, put more weight in your hand, right? You can tolerate more pressure on the ball, take more weight out of the hands. From here, now my sits bones are on the ground, so I have options about where to bring my arms. My arms can come in front of me for support. I can do a little bit more abdominal strengthening. I can bring my hands down to the ground. I can do a combination of both. They're all fine. We just want to be nice and aligned and forward. Again, I'm turning to you throughout this routine, but you are just completely rolling forward, right? From here, while the weight's sinking down into the ball, pick up the hips, shift the hips forward, right? Ball grabs on to the vertebrae and lifts it nice and long, right? So you want to feel the sensation of length. Keeping the front of the body connected to the back of the body, right? We're not coming back over the ball. We're not, crunching our abs and like really trying to crunch in right now. That's for another time. Right now, we're trying to just stay nice, upright, thinking about length, right? Visualizing space between each of the vertebrae, right? When people have discompression and compression of nerves, we don't have space. Shift the hips forward, ball comes into the thoracic spine. You may find that you need to support behind the neck at this point. Using your right arm or left is fine. When you're here, breathe. Think about breathing in 360 degrees, right? Rib cage expanding on your inhale. Inhale, rib cage expands into the ball. Exhale, sink into the ball. From here, pick up the hips. Even though we're picking up the hips, the weight is still in the ball. Shift the hips forward. Ball moves up the spine. Right now I'm to the point where I'm starting to go between the shoulder blades and breathe. Take nice deep breaths, sinking into the ball. Front of the body's connected, right? Using the hands to support the neck, taking the strain out of the front of the neck, thinking about length. Pick up the hips, exhale, shift forward. Ball moves up between the shoulders, right? Both hands can support the head, or this left arm can move out long. And breathe. Again, pick up the hips, shift the hips forward. Length through the head, right? Use this hand that's supporting the neck. It's not like we can pull the head out of our body, but give it the intention of length, right? Sacrum's making contact. We're thinking length all the way up. Letting that ball sink between the muscles of the shoulder blades, right? Even though the arms are up and supporting the head, we still don't want to be hunched up here, right? We don't want the shoulders squeezing around the neck. We still want the shoulders down. And when I mean down in the direction of your pelvis. From here, shifting forward. We're stayed on this left side all the way up. At this point, ball's making contact with the back of the neck. Once the ball's making contact with the back of the neck, get yourself adjusted. Get the length behind you. Ball's making contact with that bony prominence. Arms can release down to the floor. From here, just breathe. Really picturing the ball, creating length through the back of the neck. Shoulders are sinking down to the ground, right? Left arm, again, make sure that shoulder isn't hiked up here, definitely not pinned forward. Let it melt down to the floor. Let the palms spin and face up to the sky. And breathe. From here, you can take the ball, bring it to the back of the head. Feeling length all the way up that left side. Feeling that connection from sacrum, pelvis, low back, thoracic spine, neck, back of the skull. Breathing here. Release the ball out from underneath your head. Let both of your shoulders release down onto the ground and just breathe. One of the hardest things about Yamuna body rolling is moving slow enough. When I do these routines on my own and I'm not watching a DVD or being taught, I tend to go faster. Everyone does. So hopefully these routines will help you slow down. Coming back up. Okay. So we're going to do one last routine, moving up the spine. I'm going to go back to using the gold ball that we were using before. And what we're going to do as we go up this routine is that we are going to move out onto the ribs a little bit more and rotate the body. Okay. And then at the end, we're going to do a little variation to get more into the traps. So I think for most people, they're going to be more comfortable with a gold ball. I'm going to demonstrate with a silver, but for most of you, particularly as we move out onto the rib cage, you're going to want that support of the gold ball, and you're also going to want that softness of the gold ball on the ribs. So I'm going to show you this variation from the side, but I want you to see really quickly what it's going to look like as we go up. So we're going to start this routine at the sacrum and then quickly move up to the mid back. We're not going to want to do these rotations until we're up on the rib cage, but once we get to the rib cage, we are going to shift our body so that the ball is able to come out to the side, and then we're going to bring it back to the center. We're going to move up to the next spot. We're going to shift the body. It's going to come out to the side. We're going to come back to the center. We're going to shift the body. We're going to bring it to where it comes out to the side. Okay, so we're really just trying to get some movement between where the ribs attach into the vertebrae. Okay, it may, as you start to rotate onto the ball, it may feel so stiff and tight in those areas. And that's normal, right? We're trying to get some movement in there. We're starting to get also a little bit more massage and release further out onto the back. So again, I'm going to show this routine from the side. I'm going to start on my right side. We're going to start with the ball at the sacrum, but we're going to quickly move to where the ball is at the mid-rib cage. So here I am, starting at the sacrum, just starting to kind of sink into the ball, just kind of grounding myself, taking a couple breaths, and then I'm going to move forward and bring the ball to where I start to feel my ribs. So we're going to go to thoracic spine. So we're jumping pretty much all the way from sacrum, jumping over the lower back and hitting the rib cage. So I am really starting at about right below where my bra line would be. So mid-thoracic, pretty much halfway up the back, if you can see. From here, so the ball is on my right side, I'm going to shift my body just a little bit to my left, and I am going to rotate just a little to my right. Okay, so I often tell people in class, I imagine like you're a pig on a spit, right? Or like a rotisserie chicken. So you're on a pole and you're rotating. Okay, we're going to spin. So that means I shifted just a little bit to my left and then rotated into the right. The ball has been on the right side of my spine, and in this way, the ball rolls slightly out onto the right side of my rib cage. From here, we'll breathe. Again, shift the hips, whole body, slightly to the left, rotate a little bit more. Ball is coming over to my sideline a little bit more, okay? So as we start to move over to the side of the rib cage, starting to come over into the area of obliques, over into the area of the lats, just breathe. Now, you could continue this routine all the way around the front, but we're gonna stay on the back side of the body for today. Take some nice deep breaths out. When the ball is on the rib cage, take the opportunity to breathe. Visualize the air moving to the ball. Okay, can we really do that? No, not necessarily, but doing that visualization helps that brain muscle connection, right? Helps to cue those intercostals, to cue those obliques, cue the diaphragm to open in that area. And then from here, we're gonna rotate back. Ball's gonna come back to the midline, but we're staying just slightly on the right side. So we're still on the right side of the spine. From here, we're gonna shift forward, right? Ball moves up now between the shoulder blades. If you find that you need to support your head during this routine, please go ahead and do so. This entire routine, you can reach your right arm out long. We're gonna sink in here for a moment. Then from here, shift the hips to the left, entire body rotates. So as I rotate, I'm really letting my weight sink down into the ball. Really sinking here. The ball is pushing the ribs forward as we're rotating. Again, we're not collapsing back, we're not crunched down, we're staying long. We're just rotated. And again, hip shift slightly left, rotate a little bit more, balls coming into the side. For most people, this is really gonna be hitting the lats, starting to hit some of the rotator cuff, and breathe. Good. Ball's gonna come all the way back to midline, right? We're not completely on the spine, we're staying just to the right side. And again, we're gonna shift forward. At this point, I'm at the top of the thoracic spine, so I'm kind of at the top of my shoulder. I'm gonna stay here, sink into the ball. And then from here, shift the hips to the left, rotate on that rotisserie, right? Twisting the body, really just shifting, right? We're just rotating. Ball is still pressing the body up, right? It's taking those ribs, pushing them forward just slightly while the spine is still lengthened. We're gonna let the body just go with it. Okay, we're not fighting it. We are staying long, and breathe. From here, shift one more time. So as I'm shifted, the ball is on the back side of my shoulder, right? I'm reaching through this arm. Here we're getting to some of the muscles on the back side of the shoulder. This area is extremely tight and painful for a lot of people. Again, so I have instructed you to use the gold ball on this, even though I'm over here on a silver. Good. Come back to center. One last thing that we're gonna do here is a trap release. So we're gonna come forward, ball still on that right side. We're not gonna twist in this routine, but what we are going to do, if this feels great to you and you feel like you're getting enough release in here, wonderful. If not, to intensify this just a little bit, we're gonna take our pelvis and just come up into a bridge. When we come up into that bridge, we really wanna think about the weight coming back onto the ball, right? Chin is tucked. We're not like pushing back actively with our head. We're just letting the ball guide the neck forward and breathe. Here, we can rotate just a little bit. I'm not gonna have you rotate a ton, but you can start to shift just a little so the ball is a little bit more to the right side. From here, come back to center, release the hips back down. And then go ahead, take the ball out and release. Again, notice as we're here on the ground, does one side feel like it's sinking more into the floor than the other? When you breathe, can you feel a difference between the expansion of the rib cage on the right side versus the left? Again, most difficult time, we're gonna rotate to our right, press ourselves up gently. We're going to do that exact same routine on the left side now. Again, starting with some space in front of you, we're gonna be rolling towards our feet. We're gonna do this same rotation where we're bringing the ball out onto the side of the ribs. We're gonna start with the ball at the level of the sacrum just to kind of settle in. But then from here, we're gonna go ahead and shift forward. Ball is gonna start mid-thoracic area. Okay, so ball is on the rib cage. I'm gonna stay on the left side the entire time. Just starting to sink. Again, you may want to go ahead and support the head. Abdominal muscles are turned on, right? They're doing their job. We're going to sink into the ball here. Then from here we go. Pig on a spit. Get ready to rotate. We are going to shift our hips slightly to the right. Body is going to start to turn to the left, right? The ball is shoving that posterior rib cage forward. Now, I feel these routines a lot. Again, with every single routine that we do, you may go through an entire routine, an entire half-hour of work and go, well, baby, I didn't feel that, right? That's normal. That happens sometimes, right? Whereas it's hard to do this when you're doing this in isolation, but we're in a class, we'll have 3 people next to each other. Something can be excruciating for one person, mildly uncomfortable for another, and feel like nothing to the other person. I feel these rotational routines profoundly because my erector muscles, or my muscles that go up the middle of my spine, are extremely tight. I think some of it is my long torso, some of it is my posture, and I tend to overuse these muscles. So I really feel these routines. From here, shift your hips to the right, entire body rotates to the left. Right, we're coming out, we're on the rib cage about bra level. But as we're twisting here, body is starting to move to the sideline. Keep that neck supported and breathe. And then from here, we're going to rotate back to where we started from. So we're still to the left of the spine, but we're pretty much back to the middle. Once we're back to the spot, we're going to shift the hips forward, okay? Ball starting to move up between the shoulder blades at this point. Stay here for a couple breaths and sink. From here, all we're gonna do, pick up the hips, shift them to the right, rotate to your left. So for me, when we're between the shoulder blades, it's almost like I feel the ball grab that shoulder blade and shove it forward, and that's fine, right? We're trying to kind of get things in the back of our body unglued, right? Pushing the rib forward, even though the spine's moving backwards, shoving the shoulder blade off to the side, even though the center of the spine is moving the other direction, right? It's like it's getting in there and prying the shoulder blade away. And from here, pick up the hips, rotate again. So as I rotate again, the ball no longer shoves the shoulder blade. The ball actually starts to come onto the shoulder blade. And breathe, just let your weight sink into the ball. For me, I can feel this starting to wake up some of the muscles on the posterior side of the shoulder. And breathe. Arm can reach out long, head still supported. Come on back to center. We're gonna shift the hips forward, ball comes up to the top of the shoulders, head is nice and supported. Again, neck doesn't have to be crunched forward, doesn't have to be extending backward. Same thing with core, right? We don't want ribs flaring. We want everything connected all the way down. Ball is still to the left side. We're gonna shift our hips to the right, rotate to the left. But it's really the ball is shoving the shoulder forward. And just sink into it. From here, shift the hips to the left. Ball moves onto that left shoulder. You can reach long through this left hand. Support the neck with your right hand and breathe. Feeling the back of the shoulder let go, finding space in the back of your rib cage. Roll back to center. Again, we're gonna do a little bit of the trap. So we're gonna come forward. The ball's gonna make contact with the left side of the back of the skull. If this feels great and you wanna just stay here, go for it, okay? If you have any issues with your neck, I would say just go ahead and stay here. If not, and you want that extra trap release, from here, go ahead and pick the hips up and shift your weight back into the ball. And breathe. Getting a little extra length in the neck. You can start to rotate just a little bit to the left. It's hard, some of these routines for ladies, the balls will start to kind of grab those little hairs down at the nape of your neck. Breathe here, neck is long. Come on back down. Rotate back to center. Take a few deep breaths. And then release the ball out from behind you. At this point, we're going to take just a mini Shavasana. You may have broken this into different parts. But go ahead, extend the legs long, extend the arms long, and breathe. Just let everything go. I often cue people at this point to really let the palms face up to the sky. Okay, that's correct anatomical position. Let the legs just fall out where they may, and just let yourself be heavy. I'm gonna leave you here for a minute or two and then just kind of conclude with saying a few things. Release the effort in your breath. So if you've been intentionally breathing throughout this class, which hopefully you have been as I've been cueing you to, just let that go. Just let your inhales and exhales come as they want to. And then just start to wiggle your fingers and toes, bend your knees. Let yourself roll off to your left or your right side, and slowly, using your hands, press yourself up to a sitting position. So we just covered several variations today of the back routines. Do you need to do these all at once? No, most people are going to find kind of one that they gravitate to or one that they feel that they need for the day. Most of the time, I'm not going to do all of these at once, but I wanted to just give you the options. Again, if there's kind of one thing that you could do say you only had 10 minutes to roll and you had to pick one routine. I know that Yamuna would feel like this was perhaps the most important one for the day. This is also a great, any of these back routines are a great finisher, right? So often in my classes, I will either do that one ball in the sacrum straight up the spine, or we'll do one up one side and then the next. So great finishing routines, particularly to balance everything out. So you'll start to see as you do other routines, sometimes you can start to create some tension, or if you kind of have a big release, really going through the spine at the end evens everything out. So it's often the finale for most of my classes, but these routines are perfectly fine standalone. For many people, this is a great routine to do first thing in the morning to kind of get some of the stiffness out of the spine, particularly if you get uncomfortable when you're sleeping. The other thing is, I would probably say this is the most common routine that I do before I go to bed at night, just to kind of balance things out, and also seems to have a very grounding and relaxing effect. So again, do all these routines need to be done at the same time? No, but I wanted to give you some variation and a little bit more detailed work. So I hope you enjoyed and have a great day.